Hey everyone, it's Kristen. So now we're going to catch up in this video since the other video I didn't even talk about this calendar at all because I knew that talking about Galactus would take forever, which it did. I had to split the video into two parts, and that was pretty much over the span of 4 days because it's like, well, anyway, if you watch that video, you'll understand why. So Monday was Hulk, and it just basically saying, you know, he has almost a potential for unlimitless power and strength, you know, due to the fact that he gets stronger as his emotional response is triggered, anger specifically. And then we have Ronan the Accuser. That's a pretty cool picture of him. It looks like a painting almost. And then we have Agent 13, Sharon Carter, which I haven't talked about her before, so we're going to stop there for a second and talk about her. She was first supposed to be the younger sister of Peggy Carter, but with, you know, the comic book aging scale thing, she was redone to be her grand niece. She, you know, kind of grew up listening to tales of Peggy's exploits and just ultimately decided, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to do that when I grow up. So that's what she decided to do. She joined SHIELD, and in one of her very first field operations, she was attacked by Bartok the Leaper and rescued by Captain America. And then from then on, they teamed up to face AIM and Hydra and Red Skull. And I mean, also, of course, working with someone that closely for over a long period of time, you get really close. They fell in love. She was one of the first people kind of to know his secret identity. And although he wasn't happy about her being a SHIELD operative because he deemed it too dangerous and he wanted her to quit. But of course she didn't quit because, you know, this was kind of her dream growing up. This is what she wanted to do. So one of her assignments was going undercover investigating a white supremacist group called the National Force. And she seemingly died when she activated a bomb in her National Force suit. But really, like, Fury and Captain America thought she was dead. But really, her death was faked so that she could go even deeper undercover investigating a neo-Nazi group that wanted to use the cosmic cube to bring Hitler back. And so she, you know, everyone thought she was dead, so she was out in the cold, you know, as they say in like spy shows, in the cold, meaning no contact with like anybody else, anybody from the agency or anything like that. And she was a mercenary for several years. And so in investigating this, which, okay, this seems weird, but investigating this neo-Nazi group, she teamed up with Red Skull, which, like, what? Why would she do that? Because Red Skull was, like, Hitler's protege. Yes, he was, but there was, you know, a time when when Red Skull thought he surpassed Hitler and he didn't need Hitler anymore. And Hitler even thought he was too dangerous because he, you know, in the beginning, he invested in all of his projects, was like, great, do whatever you want. And then he got just too ambitious, too, you know, out there, too crazy, too, you know, I'm going to rule the world sort of thing, which, you know, you're like, well, but that's what Hitler wants to do. Exactly. They kind of clashed because Hitler's like, no, this is my thing. You know, you're not in charge. I am. So basically, Hitler could no longer control the Red Skull. So the Red Skull doesn't really want Hitler to come back. He doesn't really care. Like you know, it's not like they're friends or anything. So, and Red Skull happened to be, like I said, it's comic book, so it's weird. He was in a cloned Steve Rogers body at the time. It just, yeah, like I said, comic books. Whereas the real Steve, his body was breaking down after years of being exposed to the super soldier serum. And what ultimately, like, he fell into a coma. And what ultimately saved him was a blood transfusion from Red Skull. And that actually, because his body contains a uncontaminated version of the super soldier serum. And you're probably thinking, well, again, why would Red Skull do that? He had a plan. His plan was to send Steve into the Cosmic Cube to kill Hitler. So that's why. That's why he revived him and stuff. So yeah. When Steve came to, he was shocked to see Sharon alive, because he thought, along with Fury, if anyone would have known that Sharon was alive, it would be Fury, right? But he was shocked, and once they spent time together, after they, because Sharon urged him to kill the Red Skull. She'd given him this energy-based shield, and she was urging him to use it to kill the Red Skull. But he didn't, he doesn't, most heroes don't kill unless absolutely necessary. There are some cases where, they have killed, which is unfortunate, but it does happen. But he's not the one that just kills people just because. Or just because they're a bad guy, he's going to kill them. He did use his shield to slice off Red Skull's arm so that he would drop the Cosmic Cube and destabilize it, and then that caused Red Skull to disappear and be trapped within the cube. But anyway, so they kind of argued about that, and Steve realized that Sharon is not the same person that he knew. She is much harder, much more ruthless. And that shield, that energy-based shield, got lost in time. But anyway, so, they didn't resume their relationship because, well, she's definitely different. And especially since she rejoined S.H.I.E.L.D. after, her mission was kind of fulfilled. She's like, okay, I can go back to S.H.I.E.L.D. They did team up still after that. Nightmare, he was influencing people through, American patriots, through the American dream, because he, it's in the name Nightmare. He's, he can't infiltrate our world except through dreams, except for through nightmares. So he was influencing people through, even though that's a bit of a stretch, the American dream, because that's an ideology, abstract concept almost, not exactly a dream, but again, it's comic books. So it was causing these patriotic people to become go on a violent rampage, and this affected ultimately U.S. Agent and Captain America. But of course, everything turned out okay in the end because, comic books. She was very, very briefly the executive director of S.H.I.E.L.D., but she stepped down because when Maria Hill took over, because she is more interested in field work. She's not really a, administration type person. She'd rather, be in the field. And this is when Fury was missing. She became kidnapped by the Winter Soldier. This was before, it was revealed that the Winter Soldier was actually Bucky. And so when she and Captain America were, because he had rescued her, when she and Captain America were researching and trying to find out who, about the Winter Soldier, who he was, what his activities were, they kind of resumed their romance. Like I said, work with people, things happen, and they had a history, so kind of bound to happen. During the Civil War, she was actually pro superhero registration, which is kind of hard to believe because Steve was, he was the leader of the movement against it. And that's ultimately why she switched sides. Well, she said it's because of the death of Goliath, Bill Foster, that made her decision for her. But really, I feel like a big part of it was because she didn't want to be responsible for Steve's capture, because he was on the other side and she was on this side. So ultimately, they would come in conflict. After the Civil War, there was this sniper that hit Steve in the shoulder. And of course, anytime a gun goes off, people see blood, there's like chaos. People are running, screaming in all directions. They don't know what to do. Anyway, in all the chaos, someone came up and stabbed Steve 3 times in the abdomen, and he ultimately, seemed to have perished from that. And what we find out is that Crossbones was the sniper, and Sharon was the one who stabbed Steve. And you're like, what the heck? It's because Red Skull and Dr. Faustus, and the only reason I know how to pronounce his name is because he was in the Peggy Carter Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV miniseries. Well, I wouldn't say a miniseries, but it had 2 seasons. It was a really good show. Like, if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. So that's the only reason I know how to pronounce that name. But they had been working behind the scenes controlling Sharon ever since kind of Civil War. Like, so the motivations weren't entirely her own. So, and it turns out that, because she joins Red Skull's gang, because she's still under, the hypnotic suggestions of Dr. Faustus. She takes down Black Widow, Falcon. It's revealed that she's pregnant with Steve's child. And while trying to escape, in battling Sin, Red Skull's daughter, she loses the baby. She later says that, and this was like, oh, ouch. She had stabbed herself in the stomach so that Red Skull would never get access to the baby. And Dr. Faustus, he made her forget she was ever pregnant and gave her the tools to escape. Because, all part of the, oh, hi, Dazzler. Oh, hi, kitty. Hi. So, Black Widow and Falcon find her, and then at a later time when they thought she had enough, sufficiently recovered, Iron Man and Falcon told her about the pregnancy. So, and when she learned that she was responsible for Steve's death, she was very upset, very distraught. She just couldn't believe it, basically. So she tried to come up, her plan was to revive Steve. She was going to figure this out. She was going to find some way to revive him. But what she didn't know is that Red Skull was planning the same thing. Because ultimately, what he wanted to do is he wanted to have Steve be reborn, revived, and have his mind in control instead of Steve. So he would be leading the Avengers and in control of Steve's body. So, and, in leading the Avengers, he would become even more popular, and he would, be able to further his agenda. So, basically, he blackmails Sharon to be like, hey, she ultimately was an accomplice in Steve's death, but, it wasn't really, her, so to speak. But Red Skull was basically like, hey, everyone knows it's you, and you can clearly see that this is what happened, so, if you don't turn yourself in, I'm going to kill the clone Steve's body. So she turns herself in, and she also, surrenders, and she's taken to Latveria, and she is hooked up to this machine, because apparently, as Reed explained it, Reed Richards, she has some kind of cells in her body that are that pull her to Steve. I don't know. Sometimes when they write what Reed Richards says, I'm like, I don't understand what he's saying, but okay. It's comic books. I'm sure that's scientifically possible in comic books. Anyway, so they use her to revive Steve, and ultimately they are able to escape, and Steve is in control of his own body. Sharon uses Red Skull's ship to blow him up, his own ship to blow him up. And she and Steve retreat to her home in Virginia for a while. They you know, they've both been through a lot, so they need a break. So, oh yeah, she was like a member of the Secret Avengers for a while, and during Secret Empire, she's on the Shield helicarrier when the Hydro helicarrier crashes into it. She forms the Daughters of Liberty when Steve is accused of killing. Oh, she's so cute. She's in her tray sleeping. When Steve is accused of killing Thunderbolt, General Ross. And speaking of the Daughters of Liberty, Peggy at this point has come back, and she's young because the cosmic cube, the living cosmic cube, had brought her back. So she goes now by Dryad, and she's like the leader of the Daughters of Liberty, and she gives everyone their assignments, and it's Sharon Carter, Mockingbird, White Tiger, and Misty Knight. And if there's any others, well, I'm sure there's others, but I'm forgetting. So anyway, all that just, Okay, so the real reason I did that is because the very first, one of her very first missions, she was saved from Steve by Bartok the Leaper. And look at that. He has a stat card, remember? So we're going to compare the two. So her intelligence is 3, and Bartok's is 2. Her strength is 2, his is 3. Her speed's 2, his is 2. Durability 2, his is 2. Energy 1, his is 2. Skills 4, his is 6. So they're pretty evenly matched. She's a little bit more intelligent than him, but his skills are 6. And he also has an energy of 2 instead of 1. So, even though she's, a really well-trained shield agent, of course, she doesn't have any powers, so to speak. So, I could see with Bartok's skill level being 6 as opposed to her 4, which having a skill level of 4 is still pretty good. I could see where a Captain America would have to rescue her. So, for Thursday, we have a lot of the Inhumans. I won't name them all because, like I said, we're trying to get caught up. And then Friday, we have Whiplash. And we talked about him before. He's an electrical engineer. He's Russian. He made his own super suit of armor, so to speak, with electromagnetic whips in order to get his revenge against Stark. And for Saturday, Sunday, we have Odin and Thor. It's a cool looking image. So, and then for this, since the 100 stamp has been revealed, now they're going to go back over the stamps. So I'm just going to list them. Spider-Man is 1. So Spider-Man was the first stamp, which totally makes sense because Spider-Man is their most recognizable property. I mean, that is true back then as it is today. I would say especially today, because they have a lot of stamps that you would think, okay, well, when you think Marvel, do you automatically think of that character? No. If you ask someone what property is that character from, they might say Marvel. But if you're just saying, name a Marvel comic books character, some of these that are listed in these early stamps are not going to be the ones that people will automatically think of. So 2 is Hulk, again, another super popular character, so it makes sense. 3 is Conan the Barbarian, which that's one of those characters. If I say, hey, name a Marvel comic book superhero, you would not think Conan the Barbarian. 4, Thing, so the first member of the Fantastic Four to get a stamp. 5, Dracula, again, not one of those, yeah, that's a Marvel comic book character. 6, Thor, again, popular character. 7, Werewolf by Night, which most people, I would say, know him from that MCU, like, Disney Plus series that they did, which was really cool, which I really liked, but again, not a super popular character. 8, Captain America, so Spider-Man, Hulk, Thing, Thor, and Captain America are in the first 8, so it makes sense. For Friday, we have Captain Marvel, Luke Cage, Deathlock. He was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which, again, not a super popular character. Daredevil, Doctor Strange, The Living Mummy, again, like Howling Commandos, you know, not a super popular character though, not super well known. 15, Iron Man. 16, Shang-Chi. I think he's more well known now because of the movie, which I thought was really good, by the way. Which I asked someone if they had ever seen it before, and they're like, who? What? And they're like, well, what is his superhero name? I said, that is his superhero name. They're like, that's goofy. So, again, still not like super well known, but I would say way more well known because of the movie now. And then for Saturday, today, we have these stamps. Black Bolt, Volstagg, and then the Warriors 3, Hogan, Balder, and Vangdrol. And then we have Brother Voodoo, who also goes by Dr. Voodoo. And then we have Cole, which, again, not a, like, well, okay, this is, like, not Cole as in the really bad, big bad Venom, you know, character. It's, like, the warrior. Anyway, and then Man-Thing, which, again, he had a, like, super successful run, 73, 75, I think somewhere in there, that, like, Fear Itself, that was really good. Or no, that's not what it's called. It's something to do with fear, but of course that's his whole thing. You know, whoever knows fear burns at the touch of the Man-Thing, who's recently in the Uncanny X-Men. That was really cool. And here we have Sergeant Fury, as, you know, this one. And I still have not ever found the David Hasselhoff Nick Fury movie, which I do want to see. I think that would be really interesting to see. And then we have the Falcon. So, yeah, that's just so that's what we're going to do for a while, is just recap the 100 stamps. So, of course, my favorite out of those 24 is Captain America. He's one of my favorite non-X-Men characters. So, that would be, out of the first 24, my favorite. So, now, I think I'll do, like, a video every 3 days or something instead of, like, every 2 days, because, yeah, since they're just gonna do that, like, redo or re-go through the stamps for a while, I think, that's what we'll be doing. And I feel like most of the characters in this I've talked about, but then again, like I said today with Agent 13, Sharon Carter, we hadn't talked about her before, so if there's a character we haven't talked about, then we'll talk about it, and that will make the video a little bit longer. And then the other videos will probably end up being shorter, which I'm sure you guys will appreciate, because most of my videos end up being super long. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I uploaded a Dazzler video earlier, Dazzler 25, issue 25. It was a really interesting story, so you should check out that video. And until next time, bye.